Sometimes when you're solving equations, you're going to run into situations where you have fractions, okay? So you can see I have something like this. Maybe you don't have fractions in every part, but you've got fractions somewhere. You've got a couple different possibilities, okay? The first possibility is just to use your fraction rules, okay? I don't think this is the easiest thing to do, but it will work. Basically, you can get common denominators, and you can say, okay, well, 3, 2, and 12 all go into 12. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator here by 4, and that's going to give me 8/12 x plus, that would be 6/12 is equal to 5/12. And at least you can add and subtract without having to really go through anything all that complicated at this point. So here, I'm trying to isolate x, just like a normal equation. I would subtract 6/12 from both sides. In this particular case, I'm going to get 8/12 x is equal to, it's actually negative 1/12. Okay, now, x is being multiplied by 8/12, okay? I really need to divide by 8/12. And if you remember, dividing by a fraction is really the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, okay? Or the other thing you could think about is, I would like to have 1x. What do I multiply a fraction by to get 1? I multiply by its reciprocal. So whether or not you're thinking about dividing by a fraction or multiplying by the reciprocal, it ends up being the same thing. By the way, notice, I didn't actually need a common denominator for this. I can multiply and divide without a common denominator. So if you wanted to take this back to being 2/3, you could. I saw something kind of convenient when I looked at this, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that anyway. So I'm going to isolate x. I'm going to multiply by 12/8. Multiply by the reciprocal. And then I'll multiply by the reciprocal over here. And notice, over here, I get basically the same numerator and denominator. I get 1x, okay? Over here, I can divide a 12 out of the top and the bottom, and I get negative 1/8, okay? So pretty straightforward. Just get a common denominator. You can go from there. If you've got whole number values, just put them over 1. You can find a common denominator for those as well. Now, is that the easiest way to do it? Not necessarily. I don't like messing with fractions in my equations, period. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll try to actually get rid of the fractions. Remember that you're allowed to multiply an equation by whatever you want to. And if you're strategic, you can find something that each of those denominators divides into. For example, 3, 2, and 12, of course, all divide into 12. So I could take this entire equation and I could multiply everything by 12. And so 3 is going to divide into 12, 2 is going to divide into 12, and of course 12 will divide into 12. Okay, so if I multiply here, that's going to give me 24/3. 24/3 x, which of course is really just 8x, plus, that'll give me 12/2, okay, which is really 6. And then here it's going to give me 60/12. And I can just simplify this down. This is 8x plus 6 is equal to 5. Okay, subtract 6 from both sides, we get 8x is equal to negative 1. Divide, we find out that x is equal to negative 1/8. Okay, it's a really good strategy. Multiply your equation by some multiple of the denominators. All of the denominators will divide into it, and you'll take this terrible looking fraction equation and you'll turn it into something that has all whole number values. Really nice to work with.